Hey everyone, it's Shot back on their video, and today we're going to be going over the top 10 characters for the month of April. Now, I did this list last month. A lot of you voted, and a lot of you voted this month, but I wanted to see how Stage 14 dungeons, the hacker nerfs, and all that good stuff changed the community perspective and really weighed in on how and who reached the top 10, and some honorable mentions as well. Now, if you do want some more information about a new series that I'm going to be running in the next couple of days and weeks following, be sure to stick around to the end of the video. But let's go ahead and jump into the top 10 list here. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the player voted top 10 list for PvE. We're also going to go over the 5 honorable mentions that I have, and we're going to discuss the placement changes that have happened from this previous list, which is on screen now, just to give you a little review of last month's list. I want to see how the hacker nerfs have changed the community perspective, the Stage 14 dungeons releasing, and new comps with that. And we're going to see if new characters are on the list, if characters have dropped off the list, and generally just the placement reshuffle of this new list. So we're going to dive into the bottom 5 here. And also, I'm going to be going over my top 10 list at the end of the video. So if you want to check out what I think about certain characters, be sure to stick around. Now, the bottom 5 is going to be 15 with Cyrus at 11 votes, 14 with Winstrex at 14 votes, and then we have a two-way tie for 12th at Ciara and Evra with 16 votes, and then we have Yolanda at 11 with 20 votes. And Cyrus and Yolanda are actually new to the top 15 at all. Winstrex has dropped down 2. She was previously at the number 12 slot. Evra has dropped down 7. She was previously at the number 5 slot. And Ciara has dropped down 1. She was previously at the 11th slot. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth into the honorable mentions here, but I do want to mention that I think Yolanda and Cyrus are on the list, and I think they absolutely earned it because Yolanda is the premier character for Queen 14. Cyrus is the premier character for the tank comp for Void Tower Hard, so I think that they do have a spot on the list. I was surprised to see Ciara and Evra so low on the list, to be honest, but I'm not too surprised for the community's perspective, at least, because I don't think Ciara is as viable as she was before in the Void Tower Hard comps. And I also think that Evra is a little bit more viable in Queen 14 than Ashe 14 for Ciara. So I'm surprised to see Evra below Ciara. I think Evra is significantly better than Ciara in PvE. And I'm honestly surprised to see Winstrex still on the top 15 list. I think she really has lost a ton of viability for her spot in Void Tower Hard. Perhaps people are struggling with Endless Trials recently, and perhaps that is why Winstrex is voted the way she is. But we don't really know too much about Endless Trials because it is relatively new, the changes that has happened recently. So not too surprised, but definitely would take Winstrex off my personal list. Now, we're going to dive into the top 10. Now, we have a two-way tie for first place here. So I'm going to go ahead and go 3 at a time, except for the, I guess, the top 2 and then the 2 before that. We're going to go release the top 2 at the same time, and I'm not surprised to see these tied for first place. But so we're going to go through the 10 through 8 slot, and at number 10, we have William with 21 votes. Number 8 and number 8, because they are tied for number 8 slot here, with Valyria and Zatlux, both at 22 votes. Now, William is down 1 slot from previous, and I think that this is kind of warranted. Really, his only spot right now in PvE content outside of the early game is going to be helping you with Ashe 14 if you do not have a basically a comp that doesn't use William. There are a few comps that don't use William, and honestly, most of the comps don't use William, but a beginner comp can use William, but it's very hard to tune correctly to get a 100% win rate. So not as viable as you would like him to be. And really, the only other spot that you're going to see him in is Guild Boss, and I don't think Guild Boss is really that impactful. I'd actually definitely put Evra over William any day, Yolanda over William, Cyrus over William even, because I just don't think William is that prevalent in PvE. But, you know, he is definitely worthy of the top 15, I think. And then we have Zatlux at 9, or rather tied for 8. And I think that Valyria should actually just be off the list. She's in the same spot as she was before at number 8. Zatlux is actually down 3 from what he was before, which was actually at number 5, or rather number 6. So I'm a little surprised here to see that Zatlux is after Valyria. There is really no PvE content that you're using Valyria in outside of campaign, Tulpa, and maybe some Void Tower Hard, but you'd rather use the tank comp generally for Void Tower Hard. So I just think that Zatlux is way more prevalent in wave clearing, and in Queen 14 specifically, it's very hard to do a Queen 14 run without Zatlux. I don't think it's even been done, besides running like a Methasia revive comp. But I just don't see why Zatlux would be behind Valeria here. I think that he's absolutely better than this. And I think that Evra should be in front of Valeria because Evra can be used in Queen 14, and Valeria is really only that Field Tower hard / campaign clearer. So not super impressed with her. I think she can be used for Witch 14, but I think that Evra is just more important than her. So I think that she should definitely be dropped from the list out of the top 10. But we're going to go ahead and jump into the 7th through 5th slot here. And we have at number 7, Blackhorn with 24 votes. Number 6, we have Methasia with 29 votes. And number 5, we have Gangelo with 40 votes. So there's definitely a big drop-off in votes from Methasia to Gangelo. The top 5 is very, I guess, coherent. We had over 50 votes for this list, and a lot of people voted for the top 5 very similarly. After that, it's kind of much lower votes. But Blackhorn here at number 7 is up 3 from the previous month's votes, but I think that he should be even higher. I don't understand why people have Methasia over Blackhorn, because Methasia is almost just worse than Blackhorn. The only exception to why Methasia is better is some beginner comps, and for Void Tower Hard on auto. If you're running auto on Void Tower Hard, you can revive and make it easier there, but you can't really use Blackhorn for Gemini 4 or Methasia for Gemini 14. You can't use Methasia for Ash 14, and you're not usually using Methasia for Queen 14, so I definitely think Methasia should be either way down on the list or not on the list at all, and Blackhorn should be up, because Blackhorn got up 3 spots, as I mentioned, but Methasia actually jumped 8 spots from the previous month's votes, and I'm surprised to see this, honestly. I think that where she was previously is probably where I'd put her now. Now, I do think that if you don't have Blackhorn, people are picking Methasia because she's a great replacement, and I think that's where this is coming from. It's a little bit more biased. And I do understand that this is obviously a community perspective. So if you're not using these characters, you're probably not going to vote for them. But I think that Blackhorn is clearly better than Methasia in PvE content. And then we have Gangelo, and he is down 1 spot. And I think this is probably warranted, at least seeing the top 4 spots. I think this is absolutely correct. Perhaps, I guess, another character should be kind of beneath Gangelo here, but we're going to go over that in a little bit. But Gangelo being at number 5 is not surprising. I personally would probably put him near the number 4 slot because of how important he is for Gemini and for running speedier comps for Ash and Queen, because you really can't run speed comps in those dungeons without Gangelo, which is a little unfortunate. So I do think that he's a little bit better than a lot of people are saying here, but not by much. I think that where he was last month is probably where I'd put him again now. And then, so we're going to jump into the 4 and 3 slot because the number 1 and 2 slot are actually tied. And number 4 and number 3 are actually tied here. Santis at number 4, or rather, they're both at number 3, with 42 votes. And then Brand at number 3 with 42 votes. So this is a little interesting because I actually think that Santis is a little bit better than Brand. So Brand is absolutely usable in Ash 14 and one of the best comps in Ash 14. And he could still be used in some Witch comps and some Void Tower hard clears. Honestly, you can't really run a nuke comp without him. And he is down 1 spot from the last time. And Santis is up 3. So I think Santis is in the perfect spot. Maybe even a little underrated. I think she's better than Brand. Santis is used for Ash. She's used for Queen. She's used for Witch. She's used for Gemini. She's used in Void Tower hard. She is literally the PvE goddess here with the poisons and everything. She is super important for PvE content. You cannot complete Ash generally without a Santis. It's very difficult to do so, and you can't complete Queen generally without a Santis either. It's very difficult to do so. So I definitely think that Santis should be in the top 3. Personally, she is super important for PvE content in general. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump into the top 2 here, or rather the top 1, and it is shared by 2 people, and I think a lot of people can guess. We have Nathalia here at 47 votes and Hakron at 47 votes. So Nathalia is up 1 from her slot last time. She was at number 2, and Hakron stayed the same. So it's kind of funny because everyone is complaining about the Hakron nerfs, blah, 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 blah. But the Hakron character is literally at number 1. People think he's still the best character in PvE, or the most important character for PvE content, still after the nerfs. So I don't really see how the nerf wasn't warranted here. Now, I know a lot of people are upset because, oh, why did you nerf this free-to-play hero? And it just makes the game more difficult. I think that it's perfectly fine when you have a character that's so overpowered that they nerf him twice and he's still considered the best PvE character in the game. It's just absurd how strong this guy was previously, and he's still absurdly strong, even when you can dispel his max HP, because that's really the big change he got for the PvE content. Now, Nathalia being a number 1 slot, I think this is actually probably more important. I think that Nathalia probably takes the number 1 slot for me, because damages are so important, and if you want to get through campaign, if you want to get through Void Tower, you do need 1 damage though generally, and she fits the bill for both of those. She fits in Ash 14. She is one of the only people that can complete Ash 14. She can be used in Queen 14. She's one of the only people that can beat Witch 14. So there's just so many places that you can use her. She's also one of the best characters, if not the best character, for Endless Trials, which has gotten a recently more difficult stage, or rather content to do. So I think she takes the number 1 slot for me, but Hackern being at number 1/number 2 is completely understandable, and I understand why people are voting for this character again for 2 months in a row as the number 1 character in PvE, because it's not very surprising to me. Again, the nerf was completely warranted if he's still number 1 in a lot of people's eyes, including my own, or number 1 or number 2, because he's such a strong character. Sharing that defense is so important. Now, that is pretty much the list of the player voted characters. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop my own personal top 10 list in the bottom right here, right where the honorable mentions were. And we're going to go over that here. Just as a disclaimer here, I went ahead and put all the characters in. I do not rate damage highly because I think that the tank comp is the easiest comp to build for Void Tower Hard. I think the nuke comp is greatly overstated on how easy it is to build or how effective it is. If you want to run a tank comp or a nuke comp in Void Tower Hard, you're going to need either Valyria, or you're going to need something else built, at least for this month, to get you through those waves, or you're going to need Brand. You're going to need a mix of characters, whereas the tank comp can be run with almost completely free-to-play characters, including a Rhaenyra as a healer. I will be showcasing this on my alt account soon, or I'll be trying to showcase it now. Or you could run a Mathasia, which is a rookie summon character for you. So I think that the tank comp is generally going to be a much easier character or team comp to build, rather than having like a Brand plus a Valyria plus an Evra or plus Nathalia and all these different non-free-to-play characters. Whereas the tank comp, you just need Hackrin, Charles, Cyrus, and then a good healer if you have one, or Rhaenyra if you don't. So keep that in mind when you're going over this list. So I'm going to drop my list in the bottom right-hand corner, and at number 10, we have Cyrus. Number 9, we have Yolanda. Number 8, I have Evra. Number 7, I have Zatlex. And then we have the top 6, and I think this is very common and very similar to the player-voted top list. And at number 6, I actually have Brand. Number 5, I have Blackhorn. Number 4, I have Gengallo. Number 3, I have Santis. Number 2, I have Nathalia. And number 1, I have Hackrin. So I was debating actually when making this list to put Nathalia over Hackrin, and I mentioned it earlier because damage is so important. But then I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, I think Hackrin is just so important, because you really can't break into those early dungeons or dungeons at all without Hackrin, whereas Nathalia you can live without a little bit. You just won't be able to complete Ash 14 generally. But I think that Brand is a little overrated in the player voted top 10 list, because you cannot complete content generally without a Santis, and you cannot complete Gemini or have speedruns without a Gengallo, and you cannot run a lot of dungeons without Blackhorn, like Gemini, like Witch, like Ash. Some of those are very important. I mean, you can run Ash without Blackhorn and things like that, but Brand really only has 2 places or 3 places in the game: Void Tower Hard, Witch 14, and Ash 14. And I think that those spots are less important than what Blackhorn's offering, especially as a spot in the tank comp for Void Tower Hard, which is easier to build, a spot in Ash 14, a spot in Queen, early Queen to late Queen, and then also a spot in Witch and Gemini. I think that that's way more important than Gengallo, as you note, or as more important than Brand rather. And as you note here, Mathasia's not on the list. I think that she's significantly worse than Blackhorn in PvE content, even though I think that Mathasia's an excellent character. Then we have Zatlex and Evra. Now, this shouldn't be too surprising. I think that Zatlux is crucial for Queen 14, which is why I have him above the other damage dealers on this list. I think that Evra is an excellent PvE damage dealer and one of the most important pieces of the nuke comp in Void Tower Hard if you happen to have her. And she has a spot in Queen 14, which is why I put her above perhaps the other damage dealers that could be on the list, like Valyria or Ciara. I think they're a step down from Evra, again, because of the Queen 14 spot that she has. And she's still super, super important for the new comp. And then we have the new additions, which are Yolanda and Cyrus. Now, I have Yolanda here for very, I guess, self-explanatory purposes, which is Queen 14. I think that that's way more important than running a damage dealer like Valyria or Ciara, which are the other two I consider to put on this list. I think those are really the only two in contention for the number 9th and number 10th slot here. And then I have Cyrus at number 10, and I have her above Valyria and above Ciara here. Now, the reason for this is I think that Ashe 14 is completely doable without Ciara, without Valyria, and I don't think Valyria really has a spot in dungeons. I think she's really Void Tower Hard nuke or campaign, and I think that Ciara is really only for Ashe 14 or Void Tower Hard nuke, but generally you don't want to run a Ciara. You're going to want to run like a Lunar Melisa, or in this rotation, you're going to want to run Edicris or Imogen, and then 2 damage dealers. Usually it's going to be AoE damage dealers, so Ciara kind of has dropped off a little bit. But I think that Cyrus is more important for the tank comp than the other damage dealers are for the nuke comp, and I think the tank comp is more important than the nuke comp. So for those 2 reasons, I put Cyrus at number 10 over Ciara and Valyria. Now, I do recommend that people take either Nathalia or Evra for the rookie summons. As you can see from this list, I think Nathalia is so critically important for PvE content, and Evra is also more important than Valyria and the other rookie summons, in my opinion. And I just don't know why William, who would be on the list, or Valyria would be higher than the other damage dealers that I mentioned. For people, I'm not sure where people are using their Valyria over the other characters because the other characters are so important. Maybe if you're running Gangelo, you're using less of these characters, or if you're running a nuke comp and you have insane gear, you're using less of these characters. But I think that because the tank comp can auto through Void Tower, it is even more viable for endgame players because you're not going to want to manual through a lot of the stripping stages and things like that. So maybe that's a perspective issue. Maybe I have that perspective issue for my top 10 because I don't have a brand and I can't run a nuke comp in Void Tower Hard on auto. So maybe that's kind of convoluting my perspective here, but I definitely think that Cyrus has a lot of potential in those comps, especially actually with Witch 14 as well. I think there's a comp that could be used with Cyrus there as well. So now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are going to be starting a new series on the channel here, and I was doing an Ashe 12 Rush series, but it ended up turning into, okay, we're just gonna go for Queen 12 and then push Ashe 12 afterwards, which is kind of, I feel like, the same thing I'd be doing for any account. And so in order to showcase that properly, I thought about doing a couple of things. First thing is I thought about doing a 12 rush, an elite only, or a new free-to-play account. And that's the first poll. I'm going to show it on screen here, all the screenshots. And at the time of recording this video, I had 149 votes, but it may be more or less. And a lot of people voted for the elite only or the new free-to-play account. And then also a couple of comments by Neva and by Lil Wiz here suggested I do a low spend account. And I completely forgot about this option. And then I went ahead and posted a new poll, which was about 5 hours ago, and it had 87 votes at the time of recording this video. It might have more, but it looks like we're going to be doing a low spend account because a lot of people voted for that option, more so than the elite only. I guess people want to see what I can do with a little bit of money spent in the account, how fast we're going to progress, if it actually changes a lot of things. And so we're going to be starting that at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as of when this video releases. So after this video releases, it's going to be 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or around, that's going to be 5 hours after this video releases, I believe. And we're going to be starting that new account, going with the low spend. So we're going to be starting an account. We're going to be buying the Magic Pass and the Gold and Silver cards. And then we're going to be spending a little bit of money to give us a little bit of summoning boost at the beginning of the game, buying maybe perhaps the newbie summoning pack and maybe the legendary summoning pack, and that's going to be it. That's all we're going to be spending on for the next couple of months. And we're going to see how far we can get in that account. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of luck-based because when you're spending, you're going to get more summons, which means you're going to get more chances to pull some great characters. I'm not sure if we're going to reroll. We'll have to see what the stream wants to do. If you want to tune in and you want to help us decide what we're going to pick and how we're going to handle the beginning of the account, be sure to check out the stream. tonight, or rather today, wherever you are. But that'll be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the top 10 list. There will be a new one next month because I want to see how it changes for RTA and guild versus environment, rather for PvE and PvP. If you want to see me do a PvP version of this list, it wasn't that popular, so we're going to be doing it next month. We're going to be skipping this month because I want to see how it changes for RTA, but there hasn't really been too many changes since the previous list, except for maybe Urzag has come in and become a huge threat. But that'll be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.